Minecraft 1.20 has added tons of new decorative blocks and items, so in this video I'll show you 20 building tips and tricks you can do with them. The new bamboo building blocks and scaffolding work incredibly well with each other, and of course this makes a lot of sense, as these are made out of the same material. And as some examples of great things you can do with them, the top of the bamboo trapdoor looks a lot like the top of scaffolding, so you can make an awesome looking bamboo chair with the bamboo scaffolding as well as the bamboo trapdoors. And this looks fairly good with the bamboo doors as well, so definitely consider mixing around the scaffolding with the bamboo blocks. As for instance, the texture of these bamboo fences looks so similar to the texture of those small parts of the bamboo scaffolding. There's some great combinations just waiting to be done with these building blocks. Building a cool looking enchanting area inside of Minecraft is always pretty fun. And of course, to make a fully powered enchantment table, you need to have 15 different bookshelves that are around it. However, this pattern does not take up very much space, so something really cool you could do to sort of level up your enchanting area is to make it 2 blocks of the bookshelves high, but then instead of just having this all be the boring, unfunctional bookshelves, which only really serve to look nice but don't even help leveling up the enchanting, maybe you could break some of the bookshelves throughout this enchanting area and replace those with the chiseled bookshelves. Not only will the somewhat empty bookshelves add some interest to this build, but as well as that you can actually use this to store your books. Now of course these could just be standard books and this would look good, but you can also store enchanted books in these bookshelves, so this would really make it awesome, where you have sort of a double use area. The new bamboo blocks are going to make great decoration in tropical builds, but a specific feature of them is going to be even better, and that is the bamboo raft. If you want to use this awesome build trick, more or less get yourself a massive amount of the bamboo rafts. And the reason why is that this item blends in perfectly in tropical builds. And as you can see here, the texture of the bamboo raft is more or less a bunch of bamboo that's been strapped together. You can even see those straps there, with even the oars on that bamboo having those straps on it. This bamboo raft is the perfect decoration companion to any tropical themed builds. So in 1.20 I would suggest going around to all of your tropical themed builds or to create new ones, and make sure to add the bamboo raft to them, as I think at this point no jungle themed or tropical themed build could be complete without them. And of course it can also look cool to have a bunch of them sort of next to each other just around your base, as maybe like a boat storage area or a boat dock. 5 of the 6 sides of the chiseled bookshelves of course do not have the bookshelf on it, and so you can use it for a floor. But here's what's really crazy, you can also have this be a hidden location of a secret book. So I'm going to try and find it here, because I actually forgot which one I put it in, and it looks like there it is in the corner, and so more or less we can fully invisibly hide secret books here. As long as the bookshelf side of the chiseled bookshelf is invisible, then it's a perfectly great way of hiding books, even from the side, let's say. But of course we could hide all kinds of secrets here, and let's see what this secret message is. That's interesting. It's saying that if you subscribe, you'll never miss out on my Minecraft videos, tricks, live streams, and more. And it makes a lot of sense this would be hidden in the floor, as of course YouTube hides my videos from you. As of course YouTube hides my videos from most people unless you're subscribed with those notifications turned on. So you might just want to do that. And now you'll know to look in every single person's floor who uses a chiseled bookshelf. Here's a super fun building trick that actually uses the new Camel for Minecraft 1.20. Start by digging out a small pit, just 2 by 2 blocks like this. Then you want to hop on that camel and ride that camel so it falls down just into there. And if you look at the hitbox of the camel, this is a bit easier, but basically ride on the camel and get off when it's centered inside of that pit. Now you'll notice something, when it sits down, that camel's hitbox changes, and so because of that you can make a secret camel seat inside of Minecraft. Let's pretend this is in the middle of a massive build, maybe a grand hall or something. You can simply put down these trapdoors, and this could be where the seat is. Then if you want to sit on the camel, you can open it up, get on the camel, and more or less once you're on top of that camel, it will wake up and sort of get up. Then you can close that trapdoor, and you're now on top of a camel seat. And even when getting off, you can see here there's just the seat of the camel. So it is something that's awesome, because then of course the camel will sit down and basically be hidden again. The new hanging sign, which is crafted with 6 of stripped logs as well as 2 chains, which gives you 6 of the hanging signs, is a new item I'm really hung up on with this new update. And that's the fact that if you want to use it for building, there are a million uses for it. And I'll start with the first one, is the fact they look great in traditional traditional looking shop builds. And the reason why is their design is very similar to old style English looking signs and ones in Europe where they'd sort of have the chain with the little sign out in front of them. Definitely something looking awesome inside of Minecraft's Middle Ages time frame. And of course you can style them going out from the building like this, or maybe even hung up from the top of the building. And a little trick that's good to know when using these signs is that if you right click normally, you'll get those two chains, but if you crouch and right click when having it on top of a block, you'll actually have them go inwards like that. So you can have that sort of inward sign texture connecting to a full block, just as long as you're crouching when you place that down. A feature discussed during Minecraft Live was that the bamboo mosaic block makes a really good looking floor, which it definitely does with that sort of woven looking pattern. What looks really nice is doing a pattern of standard bamboo planks and bamboo mosaic planks. And to make this one, it's simply a checkerboard pattern of bamboo and bamboo mosaic, so you can place down a checkerboard of the standard bamboo blocks like that. And once you've done that, then put the bamboo mosaics in all the gaps like this. And now you can see we have the floor that looks like this. And of course on this pattern here, we have a strip of the bamboo mosaics and then two strips of the standard bamboo. So we're more or less alternating between 2 wide of bamboo and 1 wide of the mosaic. And you could even do a combination of all 3, or maybe even have it be random, where you just put down a couple of the bamboo mosaics, then you could sort of build a floor around those random pieces. Now the chiseled bookshelves are not cheap at all, taking about 7 planks worth of material to have one of them. However, what's really nice is that Mojang has actually purposely added 2 separate uses to this. If you notice, this block only has the bookshelf texture on one side, unlike the standard bookshelf, and so because of that, 5 sides out of 6 on this bookshelf item have a different texture, and these textures can be used for a lot of different things. So for instance, the top and bottom textures, which are the exact same, can be used to make an actually really nice looking floor. The other thing you can do is use this side texture, so just make sure that the bookshelf side is not facing the one that you want it to be, and you can do this by just facing the opposite direction of where you would see this inside of your builds. And more or less you can see here that makes an actually very interesting looking wall texture. I think the shininess of it combined with the very strange looking pattern could give way to some awesome combinations. Here's an awesome but unconventional use of the bamboo raft. Of course, building a bamboo house takes up a massive amount of bamboo, so you'd assume that after a big project like that, you might have some leftover bamboo sitting around, and that's exactly what this does. We more or less have, with all these bamboo boats, what looks like a massive pile of stored bamboo. Now, other than the oars, the bamboo rafts really do just look like a bundled up pile of bamboo, because that's basically what they are, and so because of that, if you imagine these rafts to sort of be like other sticks in the pile, this really does resemble a large amount of bamboo sticks that are just sitting here waiting to be used for a different project. And more or less all you have to do to make it is just go behind the build, place down a boat, sort of ride the boat into the correct position you want it to be, then get out of the pile, go back up, place down another boat or maybe even 2, and just continue sort of riding these boats as they will stack on top of each other, and then eventually there you can get all the boats aligned correctly. The hanging signs are perfect for making paper lanterns. All you have to do is place some glass blocks into the air to the height that you want this paper lantern to be at, so let's say right there. Then just break all of them, hopefully with Silk Touch, until you just have one of those there. Then if you're crouching, when you place that sign, it'll actually go with the singular chain there, and you could potentially have a little message there. This could also double as looking like a balloon that's holding a sign, like maybe putting happy birthday on there if you want it to look like some party balloons. But as well as that, you can use this singular chain connection for a couple other tricks. So for instance, if you get a singular glass pane and put a hanging sign on that, well, because the glass pane literally has just 2 small bits of texture to it, it more or less looks like that sign is just floating there. You could also use this for a dedicated signpost, so making a small construction out of fence. For instance, a sign pointing the direction of a certain way. Here's an awesome build trick, and it's one that was actually shown at Minecraft Live, but I'll actually show you how to do it. And it uses the comparator use of these bookshelves. So more or less what'll happen is, let's say we take all the books out of this bookshelf, then nothing will happen, this doesn't activate anything. But if we take out a couple books from this bookshelf, in fact exactly 3, not 2 but 3 like that, then this passage will open up and we can hide back here and maybe find a secret passageway or room that goes to something else, definitely being really interesting. But of course if we put the books back on here like this, then it'll have enough power to close again, and of course be hidden. All you have to do is have a comparator that's coming out of the back of a chiseled bookshelf, then have that run to a redstone line that if needed eventually runs to a repeater, and of course how close that repeater is to the comparator will govern how many books you have to remove, and that will go over here. That'll be consistently powering these 2 pistons. The new bamboo trapdoor has an awesome texture to it, and I've come up with a really interesting use for that texture, and that is to waterlog these trapdoors. The reason why is that yellow and blue are 2 colors that look awesome with each other, and for instance with a floor like this, it almost looks like there's lapis or some other valuable blue gemstone that's sort of set inside of this trapdoor, as you really can't see that it's water that easily, and even with the water's texture, that could sort of look like the glimmer of the jewel through that. But even if it's not meant to look like that, it still is an incredibly cool looking texture with the water going through. What I also like is you could use this to potentially look like sort of an irrigated area. So for instance, we could plant down a lot of flower pots on top of sort of that X shape in the center of these trapdoors, and maybe we could put down a flower here to look like it's sort of in some water, that there's some water beneath it. We could even try reviving this dead bush from the dead, although something tells me that's not going to work very well. What looks better to you? This bamboo wall or this bamboo wall? What I think this bamboo wall does have is a more realistic looking bamboo texture, and so to make a crazy wall like this, what you want to do is first lay out a standard wall, then sort of break some random blocks throughout it and replace those with the bamboo stairs. This will give us that first bit of the 3D texturing to make it not look perfect. Then you want to throw down a couple bamboo trapdoors throughout here. Again, you can add as many or as few as you want, and maybe even have a certain area with a bunch of them to look like you're patching up something. Then what you want to do is you want to grab the fences and just put sort of random sections of those fences around here, maybe having some of them go from the top to the bottom, or some of them just stick out 1 or 2, and also break a couple more blocks and replace those with these bamboo fences. And you can finish it up by replacing maybe every 3rd or every 4th standard bamboo block with the bamboo mosaic. And there we have this sort of random but very interesting looking bamboo wall. Here's a really cool trick with hanging signs. Basically, the top part of the hanging sign can actually be walked on top of, like right here. And so because of that, if you connect a whole bunch of the hanging signs from each other, they look like they have this sort of large bar that they're holding on. And the quickest way of doing this is just right clicking then pressing escape, so you can really quickly place all these different hanging signs. And if you want to go with the bamboo theme, you could have it connect on either side to a scaffolding. And now you have sort of a tightrope walk inside of Minecraft, or even just a large sort of stick that you could be walking on top of for something else. And although you technically could do something like this with, let's say, walls or fences or maybe glass panes, this definitely is the most realistic looking one, especially since the width of a Minecraft player's feet are basically the exact same width as this walkway, and even though the sign is there, it definitely still works as sort of this large line. The days of using looms to make empty looking bookshelves is over. Now of course the loom item isn't super expensive, so people may still very occasionally use this for that, but of course the old building tip was that from Minecraft 1.14 and onwards, this does look something like a bookshelf, and so because of that, you could sort of randomly put some of these loom blocks throughout the bookshelf blocks to look like there are some empty bookshelves. But what does a much better job at this is of course the chiseled bookshelf. Not only can you place books in the chiseled bookshelf, making partially filled, almost fully filled, or completely empty bookshelves, but they also do not require string like the loom, and even though there's oftentimes a good source of string in Minecraft, it's definitely not the easiest thing to get. And in terms of the texture itself, I would definitely say that these look a lot more like a bookcase than these do. Just beware, like the standard bookshelves, you also need a silk touch axe to effectively collect the chiseled bookshelves. I really enjoy the bamboo fence in Minecraft 1.20 because when they're connected they don't look the best, but what looks really awesome is when they're just on their own, because then we have this dried out looking bamboo stalk, complete even with what looks like a hollow center of the bamboo. This is literally the perfect material to make tiki torches out of, and these are of course those sort of tropical looking torches which can be around beaches. Now for whatever reason, lanterns look like a better torch in Minecraft than the torch, and so because of that, with just let's say 2 of these bamboo fences and a lantern on top, You can have these really awesome looking tiki torches that can light the way of your tropical beaches. There's a lot of atmosphere packed into this simple 2 bamboo fence and 1 lantern build. You could even do some weird combinations of them, but I would say that generally when there's 2 of them next to each other, it just doesn't look as good. And to make them look kind of spooky, you could use the soul lanterns. In my mind, one of the coolest things you can build with the hanging signs is sort of a hanging price board. Now, I've seen these before in different markets, and more or less what it looks like is, of course, they'll have different items that are for sale hanging up, but next to them they'll have the prices. Now, what's awesome is that the item frame can actually stably be on top of the sign. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't touch it by a wide margin, but from any distance except for if you're right next to it, that's not really noticeable. Then just below that, you can have the prices. So for instance, we might want 1 diamond for the 16 dead bushes or something else. And of course you could have this along next to your shop, maybe in it, or to the side of it. And something good to remember to make some of these things stand out. And what's good to remember is that you can still dye as well as glowify the hanging sign variety. And so because of that we can make these stand out even more with sort of a very bright looking text. Although of course some of them like the blue stand out a little bit less than others. The chiseled bookshelf, as I've said before, is able to be rotated, but because of that the top texture is not always the exact same. Yes, it looks like it would sort of look the same from every direction, but it's actually not. For instance, the shadow is sort of in the corner going this way, and if we turn it, the shadow is going this way, and because of that you can make sort of a secret walkway if someone's being really observant. So for instance, when we're walking down here, everything just looks normal. However, if we go back here and sort of look downwards, it's hard to notice, but there's basically a strange looking line along there like that, and that's because I've made a section of these bookshelves that are facing the opposite direction. And so because of that, you can sort of make secret ways of directing to different areas, or what you could even do is have a massive floor made out of the chiseled bookshelves, and only the chiseled bookshelf that is in the different direction. So for instance, this one, where the dot's pointing that way instead of this way, could be the one that contains the book in it. This next trick involves the new bamboo sign. No, not the bamboo hanging sign, we're not going to use that, but rather the new normal sign that's made out of bamboo. And the reason why the texture of this is super unique. You'll notice here it sort of has this grill-like look to it. So let's say you're designing a car inside of Minecraft and you want something to look like that. Well, this is the perfect block for the job, as it has that sort of grill car-like texture, but as well as that, this block can just be used to add some texture to any build. Because of these long parallel lines with sort of these supportive pieces, this is a really great way of adding a simple bit of texture to any of your builds. Comparing it to the acacia sign, you can see what I mean, where the acacia sign simply has this plank texture, which of course still can be used for different builds, but with this bamboo sign texture, it looks like there's tons of tiny little sticks of bamboo that are being bound together with a big piece of bamboo on either side. But speaking of the hanging signs, here's 2 really cool things you can do with them. You want to start by laying out a line of a dark colored sign, or maybe a light colored one, but this is a part of it that's just meant to look like supports, and you don't really want to draw too much attention to it. And once we have those 2 things that are going across an area, that definitely looks cool, but to improve it, we're going to use the most colorful hanging signs. Then you want to sort of randomly place these, and because these hanging signs do have sort of different orientations to them, you can make them be placed in different shapes. So for instance, to their side, and just in lots of combinations, so it looks like they're maybe flowing through the breeze and hanging wildly. And you have an amazing display that to me looks like 2 different things. The first one is lots of flags being hung from a banner, and this is definitely something that people will do in real life, is sort of have lots of flags hanging down from buildings, maybe during a special event. But the other really cool use is as sort of a laundry hanging line. I hope you enjoyed those Minecraft 1.20 building tips and tricks. If you did, be sure to subscribe and like the video. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.
Hmm.